Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Money with Alpha. This one's a bit of a cheerleading kind of episode. There's been a few things that have happened recently where I've needed some cheerleading, which I generally tend to do for myself, or I call some select people who I know will help. And I'm thinking, if you need some cheerleading, I'm going to do that for you today. So, the topic of today is you can do hard things. And it's interesting because my daughter goes to a sort of a resilience program during the holidays generally, and it's called Lemonade Kids, and it's run by an incredible woman, Beck Steinacher. And what she does is tremendous because sometimes when you hear something from someone close to you that's encouraging, especially a parent and quite often a mother, you don't really listen to it. It doesn't have the same resonance because you know they're like, well, this person is like designed to love and support me, so why would I listen to them loving and supporting me? Although that's not always what happens, interestingly enough. So it's, us humans that can, convoluted sometimes. But she gave the kids this little keychain that says you can do hard things. And my daughter put it on her school backpack as a daily reminder. And so this is a reminder because this year has been a bit of an interesting one, let's put it that way. Lots of stuff that you can't control or can't plan for, that just sort of takes you by surprise. So I've got a list, of course, because I always like to have a bit of structure. So I'm going to be talking about five things to help you recognize that you can do hard things. The first one is to write a list. I have lists all over the place, and it's just to keep things in mind. So if we're talking about money, for example, and you know there's things that you need to do, write the things down as you think of what you need to do. Like, do you need to call that provider? Do you need to, log that form? Like, I've got, forms coming out of my ears at the moment because I'm switching websites, providers over. So I'm sort of completely rebuilding. My binding death nomination for my super fund has come due, so I've had to do that. And of course, the first time I completed it, I was absent-minded and I wrote the wrong date. So I crossed out, wrote it again, sent it back. They sent it back to me saying, "Oh, we can't accept anything that has any scribbles on it," which of course it says on the form, but I didn't read it fully, so I have to do it again. So there's so many things that are going on in your brain. So just start to write some things down, even if it's not just money related. Just get it down. I use the notes function in my phone or the reminder, and it is fantastic. I can set it for a date and a time and it sends the reminder. So sometimes it's a bit overwhelming. Like if I'm awake in the middle of the night and I write some notes, and then in the morning I end up with like five reminders. But I'm glad they're there because otherwise I'd spend most of my time going, oh my gosh, what was that again? And of course, perimenopausal brain, it has a tendency to play tricks on you. So like I'll walk into a room and then they'll go, I can't remember why I walked in here. Like my the distance from the kitchen to the garage, and I've managed to forget. So write it down. Number one. Number two is schedule in time for strategic thinking and also tactical planning. This is actually a really important one because I've spent a lot of my life in the balance between strategy and planning. And it takes different brain cells to do each of these things, and also different amounts of time and different types of time. Like I can be planning on the run. I can have like people talking at me or there's noise around, and I can be, on a train or in a plane or wherever, and I'm writing stuff down. And that's kind of like the tactical planning, like a little bit of that to-do list. But if I've got to do actual proper like strategic planning or strategic thinking, I can't do it in that sort of environment. I need quiet, and I need the sort of quiet where I know I'm not going to get interrupted, which is pretty rare, I have to admit, these days with my daughter, and then my husband in sort of retirement now, so he's around a lot. So I very rarely get that time. So I have to actually plan it in when I know that I'm going to have some time. Like today, for example, it's a weekend. But my daughter's off at a birthday party, and my husband's down fixing he's doing a big boat reno. So I know I've got some time. I was like, okay, I'm going to use this opportunity, and I wrote down the time and I put it in my calendar as like strategy time. This is my opportunity. So really, really highly suggest that you set some of that time aside and recognize that it's two different types of time, two different types of thinking, and to make sure that you're in the frame of mind for strategy. And it isn't always the sort of thing that you can plan for. But you need to be well rested, not have a gazillion other things on the go at the time, and actually be able to make the space to think. If you can also do it with somebody that you have, whether it's a coach or a someone who understands you, your business, and what's going on in your life, that you can bounce ideas off. Having that sort of accountability partner or somebody just to say it out loud to is incredibly important as well. So find a friend essentially, but it's got to be the right type of friend, business friend or life friend, depending on what kind of things, what sort of life big things that you need to strategize about. Because sometimes we can get in our own head, and it is tempting to use like an AI tool. I've leaned a lot more into Claude recently because I like Claude more for the deep stuff, and the quality I find is a lot more. I'm using ChatGPT is more like that search answer engine kind of thing. When yeah, I've been using this new software, and I was like, how do I do blah? And it will search and it will find me the information. Although I also been using YouTube for that too. But yeah, so schedule the time for that. When you know you've got to do a little bit of planning, perhaps around your portfolio or investing, or what is life doing right now? And this is where coming in, and that's one of the reasons why I created things like my financial future review. It's like a one-off 90-minute session. So if you do want some like really targeted help, check that out. I'll put that link in the show notes. But it's designed for that very purpose, is to actually carve out some time to get really clear, very strategic, and really understand what it is that you're doing right now and where it's going to get you and what you need to do to make some adjustments. And to validate the things that you are doing and to look at the things that you aren't or that you could be doing better, because it's very difficult, I find, to do these things on your own, especially when you're in it. And you're not necessarily going to ask yourself some questions that someone else who has that experience can come in and ask, and you'd be like, "Oh, I never thought about that before," or "Yeah, I have been doing it. Why I've been doing it like that for so long? I don't need to. Let's time to make the change." So that's the scheduling the time. Then number three is don't think too much, especially about the big picture. I remember a number of years ago, I was at an expo, and I'd done a talk, and a lady came up to me afterwards, and she was quite stressed. I could see that from just her body and then her words that came out. She's like, "Oh, I don't know what to do. My superannuation is just, it's going up, it's going down. I don't know what to do." So I said to her, "Like, well, how often are you looking at it?" And she's like, "Oh, every day." I was like, "Well, stop looking at it every day." It's only going to make you panic if you look at it every day, because things fluctuate. And that was even before we had world leaders who would blurt out things that would impact things in a day, like trade tariffs and all that kind of stuff. So you have to look at investing as a longer term game. And I say game because some of it you can't control, and some of it feels good and some of it doesn't. But it's a longer term thing, and having an understanding of what that complete portfolio kind of looks at. So you do that thinking, you create the big picture, then you set it up to let it run. You have your plan, and you can always make adjustments, and you can do reviews. Like, it's important to do a review, and at the minimum, or like the shortest amount of time, I would say 6 monthly. Annually, absolutely. I would never take a review that goes beyond that. But 6 to 12 months is a good opportunity to just do that strategic. Let's have a look at the big picture, but don't look at it too much outside of that, unless there's a big life change, like a relationship is breaking down, or job loss, or, major financial change, whether it's good and not so good, inheritances or other thing, whatever it is. If nothing big like that is happening, just trust your strategy and let it run. So that's don't look at the whole picture too often, because if you keep making adjustments and changes, you will lose the benefit of that longer term view. So, for example, if you're going to buy a house for a retirement benefit and you're 20 years away, there's no point revisiting that every time you read about interest rates going up, or the federal budget makes changes. Like, depending on if some of those strategies will make you change or adjust, it's unlikely, to be honest, for a big purchase like that. I mean, even now in the property space, there is still things that can be done, and there's different structures that can be used. It doesn't all have to be doom and gloom, and if we really break things down, it's not necessarily going to. And if you've set yourself up in a way that has that strategic kind of thought behind it, and that the goal is bigger than just tax minimization, because that's not all you need to consider when you're investing, then quite often you won't need to make too many adjustments. So number three is don't look at the big picture too often, especially not daily. So number four is do one thing at a time. So as women in particular, we tend to multitask, and I'm guilty of that as well. I'll be like in this, and then my daughter will ask me something. I'm like, I just want to finish this. I'm like so close to finishing this task, and generally by the time I go to help her with her, she's like, oh, I don't need help anymore. So I was like, I would have interrupted what I was doing to go help you, and then break my concentration, and you figured it out anyway. So now I'm just like, you know what? Before asking me for anything, just pause and figure it out yourself. And if not, just know I'm not going to jump immediately in to help you unless it's a life and death situation, or like, if someone's dropped something and they need it picked up, whatever but there's always exceptions to things. But for the most part, try and do one thing. And that's a little bit of a catchphrase that I've said to myself as well as to my daughter is do one thing and do it well. So you have your list, you have your strategy, do one thing, complete it, do another thing. You can have a few things on the go. Like for instance, I'm doing this website right now and I've got quite a few tabs open, but I've got things where I'm uploading a video. It's like, well, while that's uploading, I'll do this over here. So you can have a few things going at one time because sometimes there might be a time frame to wait for something to be done. And then you can come back to it. But ultimately, completion. That's, try to get to the point where you get used to completing things, where your whole physiology is used to stuff being done. And I realize that if you go down the path of human design, can be difficult for manifesting generators to finish stuff. And if that's the case, find the generators because the generators, I'm putting my hand up here because I'm a generator. We like to finish things. So I am saying this to you from the point of view of a generator being fully aware, I have a manifesting generator for a daughter and a manifester for a husband. The completion of stuff, the starting is exciting, but the completion can sometimes feel a little bit mundane. So if that is you, find a generator. I'm sure you've got one in your life. If you need one, then come and you can't find one, then definitely let me know. But I'm sure you can find one in your circle that will actually help you to complete stuff. But it's really, really important to do one thing and do it well and finish it so that you don't have like all these forms half completed or, all these tasks half done. If the task isn't important enough and it's not getting done for that reason, then maybe just bin it. Like if things aren't getting done, then use that strategy and tactical planning time to actually go, do I even really want to do this? Not really. Okay, well, let's just bin it, get it out of your brain, off the list, and move on to something else. So that part is important, and it's also going to be very good from productivity perspective, and also from your feeling like completion, confident, and going, yeah, I'm actually doing stuff. So figure out how you work best and put things in place, some guardrails, some boundaries, and accountability, whatever you need in order to get it done. And then number five is to keep going. Take consistent action. It's very easy, and this is something I've been struggling a bit with this year is, oh, something's not working. So like park it. Well, you could either park it, like bin it, or pivot, or just sometimes it's just a matter of you just have to hit the pavement. You just have to keep going. When it comes to your money stuff, just keep on going. If it starts with micro investing, then just do one thing a little bit, like just connect a bank account and just let it run and see how that micro investing goes. Then maybe do a top up. $10 a month. Just do automatic $10 a month and then see how that goes. But keep moving towards it. You've got your list, you've got your strategy, you've got your plan. Keep moving consistently towards achieving each of those things. And it really, really is. It sounds so passe and so sort of overused, but the devil is in the detail and the success is in the micro steps. It's not, when you see people or even athletes or anybody who's ever experienced a great deal of success. It wasn't from one big thing that they did. It was from the myriad of little steps that they took. The doing the thing that you said you were going to do, that, confidence it builds from momentum. It's just, the posting on a daily basis on social media. even if you don't think you've necessarily, like for instance, I didn't put my contact lenses in, so the screen's looking a little fuzzy, but I did take my glasses off because otherwise it has this weird light reflection. So if I'm squinting a little bit and reading my notes, that's why. But it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. You can just like chuck on a shirt. I've got tracky dacks on the bottom, but you can't see that. Just told you, but you can't see it. And then a bit of lipstick and my money pig earrings if you happen to be watching this. So just even little things like that make a difference to how you feel, and then that makes a difference to how you show up, and then that makes a difference to the results that you get. And so it's little by little building on itself. And on the days that you don't feel it, just do one thing. Put one thing on your list. Do that one thing, even if it's just I'm going to, open up my bank account today, or I'm going to have a look at my open up a micro investing app and connect a bank account. It could just be do a video, post on socials, or do a post about something. Take a photograph of your veggie patch and post it as a story and go, oh, look at this. I have, a lettuce or something else I've managed to finally grow, because there'll be someone out there that connects with that. I had somebody recently about the gardening one, and they're like, oh my gosh, I've managed to grow a capsicum and a zucchini or whatever. I was like, I know what that feels like because I've been there. And I can so relate. I will share that joy with you because I felt it too. And that's what we want our lives to be about, is sharing those moments, being human. Brene Brown and the whole concept of, being vulnerable and authentic. And I know that authenticity word's been overused quite a bit, but it's truer now than it ever has been, especially in the days of AI. So just recognize that you can do it. And if something you think is hard, break it down. I'll go through those steps I talked about. So, firstly, write a list. Secondly, schedule time that is specific to strategic thinking when you won't get interrupted. And then tactical planning, which you can do possibly a little less, you can be interrupted a little bit there, but schedule the time in to do that kind of thinking and planning. Then the third one is to don't think about the big picture too often. Set up your strategy, take the action, put the plan in motion, and then just let it run. Trust it and don't look at it too often. Do reviews every 6 to 12 months, but don't look at it every day. Do one thing at a time and do it well and complete it, and ask for help if you need help with the completing side of it. But just do one thing at a time. And then secondly is keep going. Take the action, be consistent, let yourself know that you can do the things that you've committed to, and just keep going. So that's my little pep talk for today, that you can do hard things. If you needed to hear that, I hope it helped. And if you didn't, then I hope you still got something out of that as well, because I'm sure there's times when you probably will need something like this, because I think we all do. So with that, I will let you enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great week, and I will catch you in next week's episode.